Should you buy Battlefield 1 in 2021? Battlefield 1 took a big risk going back in time all the way back to World War I, losing many of the gameplay elements many fans grown accustomed to, like countless customization and cool new vehicles in favour of a period piece, limiting heavily on what could be done gameplay wise. Story wise, however, would be much more important this time around, and well, they did it in a way only Battlefield could. So is Battlefield 1 worth buying in 2021 with all the DLC and quality of life improvements? Let's start with single player first, and then we'll jump into multiplayer, which is what Battlefield is truly known for. We just hit 2,600 subscribers, so I can't thank you guys enough for the support. This channel is not just mine, but it's everyone's, so hop in the Discord and send me some game suggestions to review, and in the comments as well if you feel like it. Battlefield 1 chooses to not tell just one story, but multiple, spanning various times and locations, offering different set piece moments and telling a story for all kinds of soldiers during World War I, varying from a squad roaming the land in their tank, desperately trying to survive, to a lone criminal just trying to live his life or being dragged into a war that is far bigger than him. You really can't get bored while playing through the single player portion of the game due to the variety it offers. They are all done very well, but it is clear some stories were more focused on compared to others. The Gallipoli campaign definitely felt the weakest for me personally, and I'm not sure if that was just me burning out after playing a little bit of multiplayer, but it's not just me that feels like it's the weakest story, as we can see in the Discord. My personal favourite is Friends in High Places, as I feel like it adds a bit more depth to the character you play as and explores themes that war stories specifically tend to avoid, at least in your typical Hollywood movie. Friends in High Places shows a different side to the soldiers you usually play as, and really opening up the fact that these people that fought in these wars would have been so different from each other, from different backgrounds, lifestyles, and even when things go wrong and some aren't as friendly as others, they all manage to work together to achieve one goal. I won't spoil too much about this character, and to be fair, it was a tad rushed, but it was easily my favourite because it was less about being heroic and more about just trying to survive. And at the end of the day, the soldiers that fought in these wars were young men who just wanted to live and did whatever they could to do that, and I love the complexity that can add to a war story like this. What's the gameplay like for the single player though? Battlefield is known to not have great campaigns, often trying to create something entirely similar to Call of Duty to keep up with the competition, and it never really worked for the franchise, mainly because players didn't play Battlefield to experience what Call of Duty could already offer. Players wanted something more, something bigger, something only Battlefield could deliver, and man, we got that with Battlefield 1. The opening alone has you play as multiple soldiers desperately mowing down enemies trying to survive, forcing the player to adapt extremely quickly, learning the weapons they are using as well as the controls. It adds a real sense of adrenaline because your mind is all over the place right from the start, which really helps sell the entire single player portion of the game, and really shows what they're actually going for here. Want to control a tank? Yeah, you can do that while working with a squad, following every order, targeting specific tanks, hoping you don't fall into a trap. Want to fly World War I era airplane? You can do that in first person or third person. Do you want to face impossible odds as a lone soldier trying to wipe out a country's influence one step at a time in the Lawrence of Arabia war story? You can do that. It's clear DICE finally figured out what could be done with the Battlefield IP when it comes to single player. Now the AI, as I always mention, leaves a lot to be desired. Enemies often just run at you and rarely take cover, so it can kind of be a breeze, which is why I do recommend playing on harder difficulties to really get you into that mindset of sticking to the ground and praying a tank doesn't accidentally crush you. Other than that, I don't really have any complaints. It would have been nice to have a full campaign, but as I mentioned, Battlefield really doesn't suit it, and while yes, some war stories get more attention, none of them are bad, and really respect the sacrifices these people would have made, and very rarely pulls its punches. AI could have been better, but at this point I'm so tired of saying that, as it seems every game I review seems to forget that AI exists. So I'll leave that as it is. Overall, I think the single player portion is the best single player elements DICE have done in a long time. I will talk about gunplay in just a moment when we get to multiplayer. Sers-toi de cette trousse de secours. Trousse de secours, prends-la. Where to start with multiplayer? Well, the World War I era without a doubt feels very unique compared to all the shooters we've had over the years. It's actually impressive how much customization is actually in the multiplayer due to the time period. Gunplay here has a very unique feel due to the way games are paced because of the lack of overpowered vehicles and more reliance on boots on the ground gameplay, making squads of players team up to take out one tank, creating this amazing feeling you rarely get from casual first person shooters. So it really feels like a Battlefield game, which is where Battlefield 5 went wrong in my opinion. Almost every weapon in this game feels different, whether you're handling a fully automatic SMG or LMG, or choosing a powerful sniper slowly picking off the enemy team Hitman style. Sniping in Battlefield 1 has never felt better. There is nothing quite as satisfying as landing a headshot, watching the rest of the squad desperately find cover while you laugh like a maniac waiting for one of them to pop their heads up like rats. It is so much fun and is the type of gameplay you rarely get from other shooters, as I keep mentioning. Now there are overpowered weapons, that is a guarantee in these kinds of games, but it is clear DICE tried their best to balance the game and honestly did a pretty damn good job in my opinion. If you have an SMG, you're going to win those close quarter encounters if you're good enough. And obviously if someone has a marksman rifle at mid-range, you will lose, which is very fair in my opinion. It's not like Call of Duty where you're beamed no matter the range. If you pick the right spots at the right moments, you can get some great multi-kills, and it really leans into that skill element that people love in these games. There was a lot of DLC and quality of life updates, and overall I do think it's in a good state when it comes to gunplay and overall pacing of games, especially with the new operations mode, which has you fight multiple battles across multiple maps, really nailing that epic scale that Battlefield always attempts. Vehicles are interesting to say the least. Airplanes feel powerful, but are a lot weaker this time around. However, that's because you don't have lock-on rocket launchers in World War I, thank God, so planes naturally had to be weaker, and you can actually take them out with infantry weapons, which is really cool, and sniping is always a possibility, as it always has been in Battlefield. Tanks are also incredibly powerful in Battlefield 1, as they should be. If you see a tank, you run, unless you have the balls to take it on, and that usually doesn't end well if you don't have a squad backing you up, which often isn't the case if you aren't playing with mates. Classes are back naturally, so you will end up choosing one class and really sticking with it until you want to try something new with new gadgets, weapons, etc. So it really is almost impossible to get bored with Battlefield 1 unless you're grinding it out till you're like level 200. Modes like Conquest are back naturally and are just as good as you imagine, but some of the maps can be tedious to move about in as there isn't much cover in some of them, so get that respawn button ready. The standout is Operations this time around and plays very much like Rush, just without the bombs. I do think it would have been cool to expand on Operations though, to offer different objectives instead of just capturing points. Like for example, the advancing team has to take on a player controlled tank that is buffed to all hell, so the defending team has to protect that tank and the advancing team has to put their all in to destroy that tank and push forward. That would have been a bit more unique, but I don't know how you decide who gets to go in the tank. I haven't really thought too in depth about it. I think that could have encouraged more team play, but what we got was still really good. Now, what's stopping you from playing Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 5 instead of Battlefield 1? They both have more customization and offer more gameplay variety due to additional weapons and vehicles. There really is nothing apart from personal taste. I prefer Battlefield 4 and 3 over the newer games, but I do think Battlefield 1 is the better game when compared to Battlefield 5. It feels more unique and honest in a way which may sound confusing, but if I want to play a World War shooter today, Battlefield 1 is the game I'm going to play. Overall, it's easily the best Battlefield game we've had in recent memory, and with Battlefield 2042 around the corner, I absolutely think you should buy Battlefield 1 just to experience this time period, as well as the stories that are told through its single player. Thank you for watching.